I'm about to show you the 7 most difficult wounds to treat. By the end of this video, you'll have a clearer sense of why some wounds are so stubborn and a set of tools and ways of thinking that can help you treat them with confidence and certainty. Being a physician specializing in wound care for almost 10 years, I found that the hardest wounds to treat are often the ones that don't look dramatic at first glance, but they hide deeper problems. Starting with number 7, radiation wounds. Now these are tricky. Radiation damages not just the skin, but the blood supply underneath. Think of it like trying to grow grass on soil that's been poisoned. You can water it, fertilize it, even reseed it, but if the soil is hostile, nothing takes. I once cared for a woman who had a radiation wound after breast cancer treatment. On the outside, it looked small, just a patch of tissue breaking down, but every dressing we tried seemed to fail because the deeper tissue had lost its ability to repair. What finally helped wasn't just the dressing, it was working with oncology and plastics, exploring hyperbaric oxygen, and honestly, a lot of patience. Radiation wounds remind us sometimes the barrier isn't technique, it's biology, and it humbles us. Number 6 is arterial ulcers. These are the wounds that form because blood can't get down to the tissues. Peripheral arterial disease, smoking, diabetes, they all play a role. Here's the trap. These wounds often look like they're infected. They're painful, punched out, sometimes with black edges, necrotic tissue. The temptation is to load the patient up with antibiotics and fancy dressings, but the real issue is no blood flow. I had a patient who said, "Doc, why isn't this wound healing? You're giving me all of these fancy dressings." I had to sit down with him and say, it's like trying to water a plant with a hose that's kinked. Until we fix the hose, nothing's going to grow. He ended up needing vascular therapy. Only then did the wound start to close. So arterial ulcers teach us, always check inflow. If there's no supply line, no dressing can save it. Number 5 is diabetic foot ulcers. Now I know that you're probably expecting these higher on the list. And yes, they're tough, but they're also common enough that we've gotten better at managing them. The challenge here isn't just sugar levels, it's neuropathy, poor blood flow, foot deformities, infections that sneak in. And here's the real kicker, they often don't hurt. So patients don't notice until it's advanced. I once saw a man who came in for a blister on his toe. He had no pain, but when we unwrapped it, it was a deep ulcer tunneling down to bone. That's how quiet these can be. The key to diabetic foot ulcers is teamwork, podiatry, wound care, endocrinology, sometimes vascular surgery, and offloading. Without it, you're spinning your wheels. And that's actually one of the reasons why I built the Wound Care Circle, because so much of wound care is about connection, learning from each other, sharing what works, and not feeling like you're managing these complex wounds all by yourself. Inside the community, we talk through real cases just like this one. You get to hear how other providers are handling the same challenges, and you realize you're not alone in this. Number 4 is infected surgical wounds. You'd think surgical wounds are straightforward, a clean incision, some stitches, a healing line. But when infection sets in, all bets are off. These are tough because you're dealing with 2 battles, the infection itself and the patient's disappointment. "Doc, I went in for surgery to get better and now I'm worse." There's a lot of fear and mistrust. I've seen wounds open up, drain purulent fluid, and patients feeling betrayed by the process. The treatment here isn't just antibiotics and packing, it's communication, helping the patient understand that this is a detour, not a dead end. And yes, sometimes it's debridement or a return to the OR. What makes these wounds so difficult is the emotional overlay. You're not just treating tissue, you're repairing trust. Number 3 are atypical ulcers. These are the curveballs. Pyoderma gangrenosum, vasculitis ulcers, malignant wounds. They don't follow the rules of normal wound care. Dressings don't behave the way you expect. The edges don't respond to what usually works. Sometimes the more you debride, the worse it gets. I had a patient with pyoderma gangrenosum once. We thought it was an infected ulcer and treated it aggressively. The wound exploded in size because the underlying tissue wasn't bacteria, it was inflammation gone haywire. These wounds are difficult because they demand humility. They force us to admit, this isn't my lane alone. I need dermatology, rheumatology, oncology, and that's okay. Atypical ulcers remind us that wound care isn't just about wounds, it's about the whole person. Number 2 is mixed etiology wounds. These are the wounds that keep you up at night because they don't fit neatly into a box. A little venous disease, a little arterial disease, some neuropathy, maybe infection on top. These are the wounds that make you question yourself. Why isn't this working? Am I missing something? I'll never forget a patient with a leg ulcer that looked venous. Swollen leg, brown staining, but every time he tried compression, the pain got worse. It turns out that he also had significant arterial disease. So compression helped one problem, but worsened another. The hardest wounds to treat are the ones that ask you to juggle competing truths. You can't push too hard in one direction without causing harm in another. And that takes patience, humility, and sometimes the courage to say, we need a team. And finally, number 1, pressure ulcers. I saved these for last because they deserve the wait. These wounds come in many faces: sacral ulcers from immobility, heel ulcers from constant pressure, or breakdown in frail patients who simply don't have the nutrition to rebuild. Pressure ulcers are wounds of physics and biology. Physics because pressure cuts off blood flow. Biology because malnutrition and immobility rob the body of the building blocks it needs to heal. Let me share 3 stories. One was an older gentleman with a heel ulcer. Clean dressings, moist wound care week after week, but it wouldn't close. When I checked, his heel was resting right on the mattress. Once we added an offloading boot, the wound finally started to shrink. Another was a nursing home patient, frail, thin, very little reserve. His sacral ulcer started to close and reopen. The problem wasn't the dressing, it was nutrition. His body didn't have the protein or calories to build new tissue. We involved dietitians, adjusted his meals, and slowly healing began. And then there was a woman with a stage 4 sacral ulcer. We used all the right techniques: cleaning, moist dressings, pressure redistribution, but without consistent repositioning by staff, it stalled. When the nursing team fully bought into turning her every 2 hours, the wound started to show life again. The lesson: pressure ulcers are tough because they require everything: the right service, the right nutrition, the right mobility plan, the right team. Miss one piece and it falls apart. The hardest wounds to treat are the ones that ask you to juggle competing truths. You can't push too hard in one direction without causing harm in another. And that takes patience, humility, and sometimes the courage to say, we need a team. But if you know how to clean these wounds the right way, it allows them to heal much faster. And there's actually something that I've started doing recently that's helped me speed up the time it takes for wounds to heal significantly. So watch this video next where I show you what it is, how it works, and how you can use it to treat your patients faster. Stay informed and heal well.